All right. Welcome back, guys.
Hello. I never know what to say after you say welcome back.
We're going to launch into something here now. Calvin just had a long flight, and now it's what time is it now? This is a late episode. We're recording this at 10 p.m., so normally we're doing this in the morning, but no, it's kind of fun. Actually, I had just a long conversation with Calvin about a few different things. So I wanted to talk about the 4-hour work week, though. I think that's something that, I mean, you've read it. I'm reading it right now. For those that don't know, this is a Tim Ferriss book. And I don't know. How would you even describe it, Calvin?
Oh, man. I was just a little precursor here. I was 15 when I read it for the first time.
Right. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. What I remember is that it feels very similar to a lot of self-development books. I think we were kind of talking about that together, and I just sort of remembered, it reminded me that you were saying this chapter reminds me of this certain book or that book, and I remember that as well. Mm-hmm. Other thoughts were, I've heard many people talk about it, just where they say that's not enough. We should be working harder, and working for 4 hours just seems like cheating. And so,
yeah.
Yes.
What do you think about that, Cal? How many? What's the metric? We all know that work is healthy. I mean, I think that everyone can accept that to some degree. It's good to work. You don't want to just live your life idly. But how much work is too much, and how much work is not enough? What do you think?
Oh man, that's a great question. The first thing that came to my mind was actually, I listened to another podcast about a man who just made it big with a book that he wrote. And I mean, I'll have to go back and re-listen to this podcast, but he sold tons and tons of copies. One of the highest sold books. And he talks about how he hit that big success, and he realized that he didn't need to work, and he just ended up playing video games and wasting away for a while, and he realized that life just wasn't fun anymore after he'd stopped working. He had enough money and just needed projects. He needed things to keep him active and keep his mind sharp, keep him like feeling like he needed to provide for himself, and for a family.
Right.
There's, I guess I kind of went to the two extremes. I mean, that's somebody who is not working at all and has everything that they need. That kind of person will start to create problems and difficulties, maybe even unintentionally, because they have the innate desire to solve problems. And so, but as far as just a normal human who hasn't sold a book that made millions of dollars in sales, what do you think?
Well, actually, what you said kind of triggered some things that in my mind. One is, I have this belief that we all get to choose our own hard, right? Our own difficulty, our own, hard thing. And if we don't pick something, then life will kind of thrust it upon us. And sometimes it happens anyways, due to no fault of our own, we will have life put hard things on us, losing a family member, an illness, or things happen. But I have this crazy theory, and this is totally unsupported, but it feels like a lot of my friends and a lot of the people I know that are constantly trying to avoid hard things in their lives, weird stuff just happens to them. I don't know. I can't say there's a correlation there necessarily, but from my perspective, there absolutely is. And a lot of my friends that are doing triathlons and Ironmans and 100-mile runs and starting businesses, they're really pushing themselves constantly. It seems like less of that happens to them. Maybe that's just because purely, their activity is different, so they're not getting sick, or I don't know. Have you ever seen that before? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah. Well, my initial thought was just what you focus on is what you start to see. for me, my example is immediately I just go to travel, and
Hmm.
I had an experience in Brazil where a friend of mine got robbed on a bus, and I was taking that same exact bus 20 minutes after he got robbed, and I just like I was looking around, just super sketched out, like looking at certain people, wondering, okay, this bus literally just got robbed with a different group of passengers, right? And so
Hmm.
I'm kind of freaking out, and then all of a sudden I realize, like, okay, wait, hold on, crime is on around, going on all around, all the time. I
Yeah.
mean, petty theft, everything like that. We can be naive and say that it's not, but it really does happen all the time. And so why worry about it? Why stress about it right now? You know? And so I got
Hmm.
to the place that I was staying, and I told I was living with that couple at the time, and I told them about it, and Chris said, you know what? It really depends on what you focus on, because she had a friend who asked her, is it safe to walk around the streets where you live? And she said, oh, yeah, it's perfectly safe for the people that believe it's safe. And she said, it's not so safe if you are not confident in where in where you are, and if you're just constantly looking around all skittish, and you
Yeah.
touching your wallet, I mean,
Hmm.
those kinds of
Hmm.
people, whatever they focus on, they kind of attract that sort of energy, and somebody can see, oh, that person's not from around here. That person is being a little skittish. They must have some valuables on them. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that really went along with what you're saying, but
No, no, definitely. Definitely. There's so much to that. Um, I have a friend, he said he never haggles for the same reason. He said, I don't want to create an energy and he's a salesman. And it was just interesting because he said, I charge exactly what I feel like is a fair value. And he said, I hate it when people haggle with me. And he said, most times they don't. And he said, so as a result, he went and he purchased a very expensive item. And he said, the guy told me the price and that was it. I didn't question it. I didn't try to debate him on it. I just said, okay, because I don't want anyone else to haggle me on my prices. So there's something with that as well. There's an energy that seems to collect around people who write your thoughts, partly, having certain, the golden rule applied, I would say is definitely a piece of it. So there's something there for sure. I felt the same way in, we've had this conversation before, but women traveling. Is that the sketchiest thing alive, or is it perfectly safe? And I'd say the answer is yes. And it absolutely depends on you. If you're going to be sketched out all the time and you're going to look around, if you're going to look like a victim, I think bad things are going to happen to you. If you walk around with a strong, I mean, you can't be completely idiotic, right? You can't be like, oh, the world's just perfect. But I don't think that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about being naive. We're talking about accepting that there is darkness in the world and then choosing to see the light. It's not ignorance. It's definitely an acknowledgement that there is bad things out there. Bad things can happen, but we're choosing to see the light. And then that's typically all you find, like you're saying, you find what you look for.
yeah, yeah. And then if a situation arises where something that is like worst case scenario, I mean, you're kind of talking about prepare for the worst.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the saying? Prepare for the worst, but live like it's the
Yeah.
best. I don't know.
Hope for the best, but expect the worst, or prepare for the worst, hope for the best, something like that.
Something like that. Um, I mean, in my travels, I'm not a. You mentioned female solo traveling, and where there are many more solo female travelers than solo male travelers. I can't say anything about female safety because I'm not a girl, but I have talked to
Right.
a lot of female solo travelers. They have different things that they do to stay safe, but a big
Mm-hmm.
one is what you're saying. Like when you just act like you own the place, and you walk around as if you've lived there for years and years, and it does a lot more than, I mean, you become a lot safer than if you're very skittish or
Hmm.
worrying all the time that something bad's going to happen, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, my family, we lived in Guatemala for 8 years, and
Hmm.
my little siblings would run over to the grocery store, the market, their friend's house, you know.
Hmm.
And this was in a small town. I believe extremely safe. There were things that happened in the town, of course, like there happens
Yeah.
everywhere. You know, a man got stoned to death there. You know, like
Really? Holy smokes.
so there's things like that that happen, but we had lived there for so long, it became comfortable. We were confident, and even my little siblings were just running around the streets, and myself when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, you know. So I think that if you, I don't really know how I got on this topic. I can turn any topic into travel, but if you're going to a new place that
Yeah.
you've never been to before, just pretend like you've lived there for 5 years, and the feeling just completely shifts from like, oh,
Hmm.
so unknown to, hey, this is a normal town where people live and people have lived for a long time, and other travelers come here, and
Yeah.
I'll just say that I'm safe until a situation arises where I might have to,
Yeah.
you know, figure something else out. But until then, just have a good time.
Well, and this guy I was talking to from Haiti, he said we were sitting and talking, and I asked him. I said, "So is Haiti safe?" And his response to me was so funny because he's like, he said, "Yeah and no. If you walk down," he said, "there's one street I can tell you exactly where the street is. If you walk down one side of it, you'll probably get shot. If you walk down the other side of it, nothing will ever happen to you." And I said, "Okay, come on. That's not real." And he said, "It absolutely is real. One side is gang controlled. Everyone knows that in the town. You just would never want to walk on that side of the street because something bad is going to happen almost for sure. The other side of it is widely accepted as a neutral zone. No, you wouldn't touch a tourist on that side of the street." It was just so funny because in his mind he said, "This is so obvious. I mean, obviously if you're here, yes. If you're not, you know." And that's kind of led me as well to my other little plug is if you're a traveler, any kind of traveler, but especially a female traveler, just talk to locals. 99.99% of them are awesome from my perspective, at least from my experience. They love to help you, and they're absolutely willing to help you be safe if you just ask them and say, "Hey, what are the rules here I need to follow? What's going to get me in trouble? What's not?" Where I'm from in Idaho, um, there's certain trails that if you were to go hiking by yourself, decent chance you'd run into a grizzly bear. And if you don't understand how to deal with a grizzly bear, decent chance you could get attacked. And it happens. It happens to tourists or moose or bison. I mean, there's a lot of dangerous animals in Idaho. And if you don't know what you're doing, you could absolutely get killed that fast. On the flip end, I've gone my whole life and never had a problem with a grizzly bear. Had a couple close calls, but never had a problem. And there's a few rules you have to follow. And if you talk to locals, they're going to tell you, yeah, here's the rules. You just don't do this and this and this, and you always do this and this and this, and you'll never have a problem. So there's definitely something with that. And I think that ties back into our original topic, kind of. I mean, the 4 hour work week. I mean, that's kind of how we led down this is for some people, working 4 hours is incredibly destructive, and it will completely destroy your creativity and your drive. But the way he kind of displays his book is actually the chapter I'm reading right now is called "Filling the Void." He said, once you get all this free time, what are you going to do with it? And so that's something I think that's worth dealing with. So, what's your opinion on that, Calvin? What do you do with all the free time?
Filling the void. Oh
Filling the
man,
void.
yeah.
If you're only working 4 hours a week, how do you spend your time in a way that's meaningful?
I'll be honest. I've never spent only 4 hours a week working.
Right.
I'm not sure, but I have had. I mean, that void feeling when. So, for example, I mean, there's been times where I'll be traveling and not going to school, kind of working, but online, but not a whole ton, and there's a lot of free time. And that was one thing I really struggled with at the very beginning. There was just with so much free time, what do you do? How do you handle that? And I don't know what the best answer is for that. I really don't, because there are so many different answers. I mean, the answer for me might be completely different for somebody else. Creativity, I started creating just little vlogs. For example, when I was traveling in Israel, I was learning Arabic, and I just started getting my camera out and my little iPhone 7 and vlogging and the camera. I would go on little adventure trips, went to the Dead Sea, covered myself in mud, and tried to hug strangers. It was a time that my creativity kind of started to come out.
Yeah.
But I mean, if somebody has a goal to have a 4-hour work week, they'll really need to put in some time thinking about what they'll do with the other 36 hours that normally is working hours. But yeah, because it can very easily lead to like that guy who sold all the books. I mean, if you've got that much free time, then you tend to get lost in your habits. I bet if you currently have habits of scrolling Instagram or video games or anything like that, and then all of a sudden you get a bunch of free time, you're not going to go start reading self-development books and do exactly. Like 180 without some serious like internal questioning and everything like that. You're just going to go right back to those habits and they'll be magnified. So,
well, that's what money is, right? Money is the greatest evil and the greatest blessing. It brings out more of what you already are, and so does free time. Mm-hmm. Some people with their free time are incredibly destructive. Other people with their free time are incredibly productive, and it's absolutely your decision and the habits you choose to incorporate. And I'll admit right now, I mean, I'm a mix of both. Sometimes when I'm in the healthy mindset. Well, and it's funny because it's also, I mean, it's really kind of semantics, but how do we define work? Work to me is, well, the work that I think that he has in that book, at least kind of the way he's displayed it, is the kind of stuff you don't want to do. But my podcast to me does not feel like work at all. It really doesn't. Last night, we should talk about that. That was funny. Last night at 12:31. Okay, so yesterday I had the splitting migraine. Started losing vision in my left eye. And so what I did is I took an ibuprofen and a bunch of caffeine. Migraines are one of those things. If you catch it in time, you're good. If you don't catch it in time, it can really mess you up. So I pop an ibuprofen, take all my caffeine and a bunch of electrolytes, and I just tried to pass out. And I was tossing and turning miserable. Wake up, all of a sudden I kind of blacked out, and I wake up, and you can imagine, I mean, I took a ton of caffeine, and I don't really take a lot of caffeine, and my eyes are like this big. I'm just like wide awake. Cannot sleep at all. So what I did, I went to work. I started, making reels and editing them and, creating content. And just because I enjoyed it, not because it was work to me. And then I made a reel that I think was offensive to people, and they may have flagged it. And then Instagram may have shadow banned it. So.
Just in the airport, my flight was delayed, and I just start getting this like ding, 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 ding. Look at it, and it's from Semi-Meaningful Conversations Instagram, and I'm like, oh, Brunson must have posted something, and I go look at it, and all these comments are, just, I believe, I think that the way that you cut it, maybe,
100%, yeah.
Yeah, it was a little, I don't know, like if you listen to the entire context of what we were talking about, it makes sense, but I can see where people are coming from. Where, yeah,
I still thought it was so funny because I just can't figure out what people do with their time at 3 a.m. This is at 3 a.m. People are like making comments. I don't know. Well, he said scientific, and then he said this, and he said that, and they started to. I mean, it was funny. They were all commenting on the semantics that I'd used, and 100% I cut it that way on purpose. I mean, marketing, right? I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna cut it right there. Boom. And what's funny, even if you listen to the clip, it's pretty obvious that I was just citing somebody else. I was quoting something that I'd seen, but it was just funny because everyone is sitting there, little social justice or keyboard warriors, right? That's what we call them. It was just funny. I thought, man, I've never commented on a video. I don't know the last time I ever commented on a video. It's just so funny seeing people comment on a video that to me was just, I just posted it, we were getting about 1,000 hits every 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden it was just gone. So it just halted really fast. So we think a few may have reported it, but yeah, going all the way back around town. It's funny because making content and podcasting and doing this kind of stuff never has felt like work to me. And I think that kind of comes back to filling that void. It's not really about, your 4-hour work week is 4 hours of doing the kind of stuff you probably don't like to do typically. It's some of that mundane work, your emails, and the way he structured his life is that if he can delegate it, he does. And those 4 hours are only dedicated to what he absolutely has to do to keep the needle moving. And anyway, so the philosophy is very interesting, and I kind of feel like there's two trains of thought with it. One would be the finding fulfillment in the grind mentality. You just work and work and work, and you find a lot of fulfillment in just mastering your craft and really becoming excellent at what you do. And the other one is learning how to not work. It's learning how to pursue your passion, learning how to be smarter about the way you think about money and time, and all those is very valuable resources, and saying, okay, no, what I care about is this, and I'm going to find a way to make money into a machine, create these money-making machines that do all the hard labor for me so that I can focus on, in his case, traveling and learning languages and writing blogs and just learning stuff for the sake of learning. Actually, I really jived with actually his Filling the Void chapter, because he said, in my free time, he said, I went to Brazil and learned jiu-jitsu and Portuguese. And then I went to Italy, and I think he, learned fine cuisine and took cooking classes. And then he went to this other place and learned this skill and the language. And so at the time of writing, I think he speaks 6 languages. And that to me is just the coolest thing ever. So, but other folks, they just love mastering a specific craft, and that's what they spend their time in life doing, just that one thing. And they work in, and as a diesel mechanic, and they love it. And they love going to work every day, or they don't love going to work every day, but they find fulfillment in showing up every day anyways.
Oh, yeah.
So definitely something there. I don't know. I think you're more the second type, right, Cal?
Well, I don't know, because I moved to Brazil to learn Portuguese, and
Oh, that's what I mean. You're more the money is purely a tool to provide me so I can travel and experience.
then yes,
Right.
yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't even realize that he had done that, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, maybe that was ingrained in my mind as a 15-year-old, and I completely forgot.
We may have found the source. Yeah, this is where it all came from.
Maybe that was where it came from.
Well, and it also goes to be said that some people, their hobby is making money. 100%. That is what they enjoy doing. I have a lot of friends that are that way. I've got family members that are that way.
Mm-hmm.
They just love making money. That's how they have a good time. So,
Yeah. I think if you find something that is a good time for you, whether it's podcasting or making money or saving up and then traveling, and I don't know, as long as you have something to fill that void, I think that's the most important thing. I call it the in-between time,
mm-hmm.
because what happened for me is I realized that, for example, I was posting on social media a lot, just in my stories and things, where I was often about, posting videos of me hiking a volcano in Bali, or just in Thailand, just whatever I was doing. It was cool, and people might see it on social media and think, wow, that is so awesome. Like, his life is just going great right now. And then it would happen, like when you get home from hiking the volcano, for example. I remember this one experience I had where I got home from quite a big adventure and just forgot my passport, couldn't get on a bus, couldn't. I had like to take a red eye bus ride back to where I was staying, and
Hmm.
I lost a bunch of money on like different Ubers and stuff that I didn't need to take, and some
Yeah.
guy took advantage of me and like took double of what I should have paid him, and I had just posted about this experience and getting comments like, "Wow, this is so awesome," you know. And I get home to the hostel and just flop on my bed, just exhausted, right? And
Hmm.
shared room, and there's 8 people in there, and one of the dudes is just snoring like crazy. Another person hasn't taken a shower in a week, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like if only you knew like the in between time, right? The these voids that we have that nobody ever really sees on social media or anything like that. But um, yeah, I think that our in between time really makes a huge impact on who we are, and people need to understand that to be able to understand you. So
And I think the other part of it too is that I think what drives me up the wall is when I hear people talk about how they feel completely trapped. That's what's really tough for me. I see people all the time, and again, my life is nothing amazing or extraordinary necessarily. I enjoy my life, but I wouldn't say that I've got it figured out. But it's hard seeing people who are stuck in that 9 to 5 job and that grind and completely believe that's the way life should be. Some personalities, right, as we've discussed, they thrive in that environment. They love structure, they love stability, and they just can't imagine life any better. And I think that's more the exception than the rule, frankly. But the bummer to me is that so many people aren't exposed to the idea that, yes, you can actually work a lot less and still live a really good life. And again, maybe at the end of my life, I'm going to come back and say, wow, I wish I had not done that. I should have chosen the corporate lifestyle. I should have just buckled into a career. But right now, where I'm at, like, and I think it's kind of funny we can tell you this, but we learned how to make really good money hosting trips to foreign countries. We got to travel for free and make a little money on the side, bringing people on possibly one of the better experiences of their entire lives. Like, that's absolutely insane if you think about it. I've made money hosting dances. I've made money selling widgets. I've made money doing odd jobs here and there. I've made money. Actually, I've saved a lot of money doing other stuff. But I think we get really stuck in career mode. And right now, I mean, I think again, family might be a little different when you've got kids and you have dependents. But man, I don't know. For me, what I'm seeing is that there's really, really good money out there if you know how to be a little bit creative. Um, the ClickFunnels philosophy is one of many, but people make a lot of money just working from their laptop. And I don't know, I guess all of this kind of pours in my mind because that's what's frustrating to me is when I see people that feel completely stuck and trapped in their $7.50 an hour job with zero meaning, fulfillment. They hate it. They're not growing. They're not progressing, and they feel stuck there. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, Cal?
yeah,
Maybe
so many
maybe
thoughts
two thoughts. Yeah.
for like 2 minutes that we have left, but um, I was on the airplane last night, and the guy that sat next to me was Theron Harmon, the guy from the Harmon Brothers. They make the most
What?
like
No way.
incredible ads, dude. Yeah,
Did you get his
yeah,
contact info? I'm a huge fan.
I did. Yes,
Woo. Okay. Yeah, we're talking later.
yeah.
Love the Harmon
Anyways,
Brothers.
so cool. Their ads and what they've done with, I mean, inventing VidAngel and Angel Studios. I mean,
Hmm.
amazing work that
Legends.
they've done. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting back in coach with me at the back of the airplane, you know, and it was so awesome just talking to him and we talked about, oh man, I could talk more about this for another episode, honestly, but
For sure.
I mean, we talked about their failures, their successes, the stories that nobody hears about where a project goes awry, you know.
Hmm.
But I can tell, well, I don't know. But from what it seems,
the guy just loves what he does, you know? And I had just been having some like crisis moments, just like, this whole video direction that I'm going, is it right? Like, do I love it? And I realized, yeah, I do love it. And then I started asking, is it sustainable? And then talking to this guy, he was like, oh, absolutely. What you're doing is sustainable. And it's, if you love what you do, then it can be the best thing ever. And so that's kind of what I took away from it, that, honestly, for the 4-hour work week, my take on it is there are certain things that we need to do for our businesses that we just don't really want to do. You know, you can't love every single second of what you're doing. I mean, there's certain parts of editing, like finding music to go along with a video, that I just don't really like. And so I can see that there are about 4 hours of intense, just things that you got to buckle down and do. But then the rest of it can be just life and something that you enjoy, and maybe it'll pull you money, maybe it won't. But anyway, that's my take on it.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. That's actually really cool to hear someone like that who's been so successful saying, no, this is worth it. You know, it's worth trying to find that passion.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining us today. That's about time for us. Hope this has been a good, seemingly semi-meaningful, seemingly meaningful conversation. What did that one guy say in the comments? What did he say we should name our podcast?
Said, you should call this the pseudo meaningful, something like that. Just saying that we were spreading false information, but just listen to the context. I don't think we're that crazy.
Oh man, people are funny to me. Yeah. Well, folks, thanks for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode.
Peace.